like and subscribe. I've got some really tragic and not only that, some very interesting content for you right now. Now, obviously, there have been some local news out here in California, in particular in SoCal, talking about, I believe his name is Maylik Birdsong from 83rd Street and down in South Central LA, and was allegedly, well, not allegedly, obviously had been shot and killed as a result of a possible gang affiliation. Now, what I want to try to address in this particular topic is the truth, right? And it's going to be uncomfortable for a lot of people for several reasons. And perhaps maybe what I'm saying could be an actual falsehood and not the reality of it all. But I'm going to speak from not only anecdotal experience, but also just trying to understand what is going on here. First, let's play this news clip of this particular instance and what had happened as a result of this tragic event.
Done. The most important part is the one you need now, and the best partner is the one who can deliver.
I got to tell you, the reason why it is rather important to understand that this is an ambush is because clearly, when you do a drive-by, you don't necessarily have an up close and personal vendetta or relationship with the actual unaliving of the person. In other words, it's almost indiscriminate, right? It's not like as intimate as, let's say, performing an execution where you are the butcher, where you are the one doing the beheading or some sort like that, right? This isn't one of those situations. What this is a non-personal situation. Now, look, for those of you that don't understand gang culture, this is the reality of gang culture in a nutshell. It is literally trying to prove yourself to your hood and to the people that you're affiliated with. And not only that, gain status as a result of the actions that you're trying to do. Okay. So, in other words, the more violent crimes that you commit, the more that you are a trophy or an important person in the gang. So, what does this relate to this person, right? Because this person is obviously a pro boxer. He's worked his whole entire life to become what he is, a 10-1 and one draw fighter, I believe, which is a very good record for a prospect right now. And I believe Maylik Birdsong has fought in Hollywood Fight Nights, which is one of these local boxing shows, boxing promotions that they have around LA. So he's made quite a name for himself and has worked really hard to do that. And in order for you to do that, you can't go out and obviously gangbang or spend the rest of your life doing that. You obviously have to be focused in. And guess what? If you're from these certain hoods or certain neighborhoods or barrios or whatever, most of these guys who are about that life will try to steer you away from it. However, there are times where even though they try to steer you away from it, the little homies are still going to go there and do what they want to do. They want to be down with the hood or this and that. Now, the other side of it is they don't care if you are affiliated, or I'm sorry, they don't care if you are, let's say, a non-affiliate. Well, non-affiliate is a very vague word. Let's just say that, let's say if you are a person that hangs out or is from a certain neighborhood, and let's say you're not necessarily from the gang, they will still hold you responsible. And I'm talking about the rivals. And I think this is what's going on here. I think that either he was never really involved, but at the same time, sometimes if you grow up in a certain place, you have to be involved. Now, look at Kendrick Lamar. This is a great example of that. Kendrick Lamar has never really espoused being a blood, at least not in the outwardly fashioned way that, let's say, Snoop Dogg or Doggy Style, or let's say The Game, who's obviously a known blood affiliate, or Jim Jones or Dipset or those guys in the East Coast. Right now, those guys are obviously flagging to the max, letting you know that, hey, you know what? This is who I'm down with. This is who I ride with. And Kendrick never really did that. But you look at the T Flats, the Sureños down in the T Flats in Compton, they obviously desecrated his wall. Why? Because of who Kendrick grew up with. And Kendrick necessarily never had to get any gang tattoos or show any type of, let's say, strong affiliations, other than, of course, any homies that have gotten out. He took them to world tours around the world. And the first plane that most of these guys have ever been in was a private jet because of him. So the enemies are going to look at that and say, well, you know what? You're down with these guys. And that's just really the reality of it in their mind. So let's go back to this video. The record wrong. Obviously, I said 10 wins, but that's actually 10 knockouts. But yeah, so 16 fights already into his career, 17 to be exact. So he was a highly touted prospect at that. I had mentioned the Hollywood fights right here, as you see it right here. What I believe he is fighting an Armenian gentleman. Now, I got to tell you, the father made a very good point. Okay, is there some sort of jealousy that is going on here? Perhaps there is some reality to that. And if that's the case, you have to understand that the way that these gangs operate, right? If they knock you down and you're from a certain hood, it's like you're a trophy. When you're a trophy, let's say you're a rapper, you're a star fighter, let's say you're an actor or a comedian or somebody really big or a CEO of some sort, right? You're considered a hood trophy. Why? Because let's say you are the opportunity for these guys. You are the guy that could put these guys on, put them in positions of certain jobs and power and things of that nature. So the other gangs are going to look at that, especially the rivals, and say, well, you know what? Maybe perhaps we can do something to this guy to stop their progress from going on. And again, I'm not here to espouse whether this is correct or whether this is the right thing to do or this and that. I'm simply stating facts and what is going on in this particular world. Now, once again, we also can't deny the fact that he is an affiliate of some sort, because here's something you got to understand, right? And I'm about to say something very controversial in a minute. If you live in a certain place like this, you might as well just join a gang, and not because it's cool or because it looks fashionable or because it's the hip hop thing to do. It's simply because of survival. Okay, now are there psychopaths out there that join gangs for just the heck of it, for just trying to gun somebody down or do whatever it is that they want to do? Yeah, of course. But you also got to understand that there are people out there that have to do it for the sake of survival. And I think this is one of those situations because, hey, look, there's an expression, right? If you F with them, you duck with them. And you know what duck rhymes with, because I'm not trying to curse here, but yes, if you F with them, you duck with them. And a lot of gang members, especially in Southern California and all of California, North and South, have that mentality. You ride with them, you're going to get it. And that's where they're at with this. Now, again, I'm not here to disrespect this man in any kind of way. I'm not here to talk down on this guy's situation or anything like that. This is just the unfortunate reality of the hood. Now, you want another example that is very similar to this? How about Boys in the Hood? How about Ricky? Remember him? What was he? Was he really a gangbanger, or was he really affiliated in that kind of way? You could say he is and he isn't, because he lives in a neighborhood, he hangs out with them. And as a result, those Bloods that saw him in that movie decided to gun him down, because guess what? He was either a hood trophy, he was either a guy that was just somebody that could have been a nuisance to them. But either way, he is an affiliate, and therefore they had to do something as a result of it. So here we go. Let's continue on with this video. All right. So here's something you guys have to understand, right? There have been many guys and girls out there that have had great potential of doing something really big in the world of combat sports. Unfortunately, their lives have cut short because of the circumstances that happen in their neighborhoods or happen in their particular environments. And this is just one of those tragic stories, right? Now, unfortunately, this is one of these situations that will always happen. As I've mentioned earlier about Ricky from Boys in the Hood, even Red Supreme, the YouTuber, you guys know him, Red Supreme TV. He's a known member of the Rolling 20s Bloods, had a lot of rivalries and, let's say, back and forths with the 18th Street Mexican gang and had one of their neighborhood affiliates or a guy that lived in their neighborhood that was a football player get gunned down and wasn't even a gangbanger, right? Just because of the fact that he lived in that neighborhood. That is the reality of the streets. It happens everywhere, not just in LA, not just in New York, not just in Chicago, but it happens in France, it happens in London, it happens in Spain, it happens in Dagestan, you name it. All of these things are a prevalent reality for many people. So it is unfortunate and this is what it is, but I know that there's a lot of people out there that are going to say, well, they should have done it this way, or maybe he should have just moved out the hood, or maybe he should have just not affiliated himself with a certain people, or this and that. Look, man, sometimes it's easier said than done. And then people are probably going to wonder, well, you know what? You're a professional boxer. Why don't you just go and move out of the hood? Don't you have money? Well, that's very interesting because in the recent events, and by the way, I'm going to segue this into the next topic at hand, which is obviously Conor McGregor and Terence Crawford, but also the conversation of fighter pay. Because a lot of people are saying that, hey, you go from MMA to boxing, you're automatically going to make more money. Well, not so fast. If you're talking about making more money in boxing, we're talking about the big names, not the guys that are in the prospect list, which unfortunately is where Birdsong was at before he had tragically passed away. That was his trajectory and current status in the world of boxing. So for you to say that, okay, you know what, just move out of the hood and this and that, it's a little easier said than done. And we don't really know the full spectrum of their finances if they were able to do that in any kind of way. But it is rather tragic, and that's what it is. And that's the reality of fighter pay in boxing and the reality of the streets and everything in between. So let's segue this first into the Francis Ngannou comment that Dana White had made, right? So he said that, well, he would have not made more money if he had gone into boxing. In fact, he would have made more if he fought John Jones. Well, look, let me just say that, right? Aside from the fact that I had just mentioned to you that it is the top tier guys that make the most money. And obviously, Francis Ngannou is a top tier guy. So he did make money, especially from an oligarch like the Saudis who have unlimited amount of funds that don't really care about, let's say, the returns that they have to invest in, right? It's not about that. It's literally money that they spend in order to promote the brand of their country and their tourism. And that has been successful because guess what? In 2024, this is the year where the Saudis have collected the most amount of tourism uh, gains in their financial treasure chest. Now, what's the contributing factor of that? Maybe boxing, maybe all these other entertainment sports, maybe the fact that they brought in Ronaldo to play for one of their local soccer clubs, and then creating the Saudi league as a formidable league by bringing all these top players in. Perhaps maybe that's the reason why. But either way, Francis Ngannou got paid a lot, and it is because they are in the top tier, and that is the reality of it. And when you're in this top tier, because we're going to get into Conor McGregor, right? It's very difficult to get him a fight right now because of his status, because of the fact that you want to make these fights lucrative. You want to have the right amount of audience. You want to be able to, let's say, garner the most amounts of gates that you can, which is the reason why he had a hard time getting a fight during the pandemic. As a result of that, what we have with Conor McGregor right now is in a limbo of his career. So obviously, he was scheduled to fight Michael Chandler. That didn't happen. But then he met Terence Crawford in Saudi Arabia. I'm sorry, not in Saudi Arabia, in London for the Anthony Joshua and Dubois fight. And they were talking about, hey, you know what? Let's just get this fight going together. Terence Crawford said, hey, you know what, man? I'm not about to go into an octagon just so you can kick me and elbow me and laugh at me at the same time. And Conor McGregor said, hey, you know what? That's respect. You know, I probably can't beat you in boxing either, but hey, we're going to make loads of money on it. And I think that that's sort of where this entire trajectory goes with Conor McGregor and what he's trying to do next. Because let's put it like this, right? Is it a risky move for the UFC for him to fight Terence Crawford in boxing? Yes, it is. but there's no loss that comes out of that because this is Terence Crawford by the end of the day. He is boxing. So for Conor McGregor to fight the last generation's great boxer and then this generation's great boxer projected to lose, what can he really lose out of this situation? Not much, but they can gain a lot, way more than if, let's say, he was to lose to Michael Chandler. So that is why Terence Crawford said yes to boxing and no to an MMA fight. And as always, it is always the MMA fighter that will oblige themselves to go into a boxing ring rather than have the MMA fighter come in and fight in the octagon. I'm sorry, the boxer coming in to fight in the octagon. The only person that has done that is Clarissa Shields. Now, why was she able to do that? Well, I can't tell you why. What I can tell you is that it's different for women, and I don't know why it's different for women, but it is. But understand that. So that's all that we have for this video right now. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I hope everybody out there stays safe, but also stay vigilant, stay dangerous, and make sure that you watch your P's and Q's because it is a dangerous world out there. And as for Conor McGregor, I got to tell you, it's been great seeing him all throughout his career. We want to continue seeing it. The problem is that he is so famous right now that it is very difficult to put him in fights because it could be risky. And not only is it a risk, it could also hinder the UFC in multiple ways. But if you were to have him go and fight Terence Crawford, I think you could get a lot out of him. Let me explain why. He gets into this boxing match, he loses, which is what we're projecting is going to happen, right? It's Terence Crawford, for crying out loud. And then you bring him into the MMA world, maybe an easier fight, maybe way easier than Michael Chandler. And then you can build off from there if he does actually win. But if you were to just throw him against Michael Chandler right now, who, by the way, is looking in great shape, regardless of the past results that you've seen in his fights, he's going to go in there and hurt Conor McGregor, whether Conor McGregor loses against him or not. He's just in a better shape than Conor McGregor right now, just from what we've seen in their training habits. So if he was to lose, that's 3 in a row, 2 from Dustin Poirier, and now 1 from Michael Chandler. That's not good. You can't build off of him from there. But if you throw him in the boxing ring, you can build off of Conor McGregor and even build more so right after the boxing fight and then get him into an MMA fight again in the way that he did against Khabib. But that is all that I have for this one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you guys in the next one, inshallah.